first heard the news about a Thing prequel, I didn't really know what to think at first, especially considering that John Carpenter's The Thing is probably one of the best sci-fi horror films of all time. It had characters that didn't feel one-dimensional, a tense, paranoid atmosphere such as the barren backdrop of a frigid Arctic winter, and was even a showcase of how great practical special effects can be when done right. So that's quite a hard act to follow for this 2011 prequel. But I'd lie if I didn't say it didn't pique my interest. Mostly because, well, I'm a huge fan of John Carpenter's The Thing, and I was interested in seeing how the first encounter with The Thing did play out. So, did it live up to that status of the original set? Did it answer the questions that fans wanted to know? And, most importantly, was it a good movie? 2 words. Fuck no! Being that this is a prequel, they obviously have the same premise. An Arctic research team finds the remains of an alien creature, bring it back to base, it awakes, wreaks havoc, and starts killing and copying members of the team, driving paranoia and fear amongst everyone there. The only difference in this new version is, they're Norwegian. Oh, except for the 4 Americans. Yeah, sorry, Norway. How did these Norwegians and the 4 Americans fare in this movie? Well, they seem to suffer from a common horror movie symptom that I constantly see diagnosed but often ignored. I call it shitus not given us. In other words, nobody gives a shit. In Carpenter's version, we were given characters that were developed. They were well thought out, they had dimensions, and most of all, they had personality. Something that this cast really lacks. None of them really seem to develop a personality or any traits or just anything that makes us latch onto them or care to them whenever they're being attacked or turn into a monstrosity. I really think the actors are to blame for this. After all, they're working with what the script gives them. What the script gives them is really so much less than really it takes to develop a character or even to build on a personality. Take, for example, Mary Elizabeth Winston's character is the lead and mainly to fill in for Kurt Russell. That guy from The Warrior is that guy from The Warrior, and the Norwegians, well, they're pretty much just Norwegians. For a whole movie whose premise is about fear and paranoia building amongst a small group of people, it's really essential that they should have personalities and a character. Otherwise, you're just listening to people yell for a couple of hours and you're not really entertained because they're just faceless. You don't really care about what they're talking about nor what they're arguing about. Hell, I was drawn more to the counter because they had more of a fucking personality than anyone else in this movie ever did. Speaking of which, how was The Thing in this version? I mean, after all, this is a prequel, so we can actually get a chance to see what the Norwegians saw. We can actually get a chance to see what The Thing actually might have looked like. In Carpenter's version, we got the idea that The Thing was a creature with no definite shape, a vast amalgamation of bits and parts of other life forms from across the universe. A creature who can hide in someone we trust and turn them into a twisted and grotesque nightmare full of molding flesh, ripping tendons, and dripping blood and gore. So, what did it look like? Well, it's a giant vagina with spider legs. Yeah.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Oh, how I wish. You mean to tell me The Thing, a shape-shifting creature who can turn into any possible form in the galaxy, is a spider vag? What the actual fuck? To add insult to injury, it's not bad enough that we have to deal with that, but The Thing itself, an entirely CGI creation. Now granted, I don't mind CGI, though I do prefer practical effects better. I just really couldn't get past how bad this CGI was done. Seriously, this almost looks like something from the frickin' early 90s, it's so bad. Let me put it this way. While most people would consider that monster in the background to be terrifying, I couldn't help but compare it to a very pre-rendered version of Tyrant from Resident Evil 1. It's a shame, really. This thing had so much potential going for it. On the one hand, it could have built upon the mythos that Carpenter had established in his version, and on the other, it could have given solid backstory to characters who, in the Carpenter version, who didn't even have so much as just 2 actors. As a movie on its own terms without any connection to the Carpenter movie, it still fails, even if we were to judge it on a B monster movie level. Because in most, you can at least find characters who have some sense of a trait, and you can have a monster that's at least somewhat convincing or even threatening. And here, it's that. It tries so hard to capture what made Carpenter's film so great in the first place. In fact, it copies many of the scenes from the original, but it just falls flat. Like the thing itself, this version tries to absorb Carpenter's version in an attempt to hide its own flaws behind something that's so well loved and so well respected. Yet, when confronted, it reveals itself to be nothing more than just an imperfect copy. Overall, the film is just a complete disappointment. As a prequel, it fails to connect with the film that it's building to. The links it makes feel unnecessary and pointless, especially the post-end credit sequence, or just come across as treading old waters. And, as a movie on its own terms, it's just too mediocre and lifeless to be entertaining. It's sad that this movie couldn't reach the potential it had, but when you can't appeal to your own target audiences, whether it being fans expecting a prequel, or moviegoers expecting a monster movie, then, bro, your movie really sucks. I give The Thing, 2011, a 2 out of 5. And don't think this movie doesn't deserve it. I mean, especially after the CGI spider vag and trying to pass itself off as a prequel when really it's just a remake. Man, fuck this movie.
Yeah, fuck you too!